Nobody expected the truth to leak out this fast, and nobody expected it to flip the entire Browns quarterback conversation upside down. All week long, the narrative was simple. After the brutal loss to the 49ers, Sheduer Sanders was supposedly falling behind, not ready, and needing more time. But inside the facility, behind doors the cameras weren't supposed to see, something completely different was happening. Something the media wasn't ready for and the fan base didn't see coming. Because while the outside world was tearing him apart, Sheduer was quietly ripping through practice in a way that forced coaches, veterans, and even doubters to stop talking and start paying attention. Everyone thought the aftermath of the 49ers game would crush his confidence, but instead, it lit a fire that changed everything. The pressure was suffocating, the criticism relentless, and yet every time he stepped onto the field during those midweek sessions, it was clear he wasn't folding, he was evolving. And then Browns OC Tommy Rees broke his silence, and the entire tone surrounding Sheduer flipped in an instant. Rees didn't just defend him. He praised him in a way that sounded like a warning shot to anyone doubting the rookie. He said Sheduer was operationally cleaner, more decisive, more commanding, and more comfortable leading the offense. That wasn't just coach talk. That was a message. Sheduer was no longer playing catch-up. He was taking control. Rumors slipped out from staffers saying he was the one correcting protections, the one getting guys lined up, the one taking control of the huddle like he had been in the league for years. And when Rees mentioned Sheduer asking for more reps, demanding more reps, it felt like he was drawing a clear line. This wasn't the same rookie from 2 weeks ago. This was a quarterback rising fast, and veterans in the room started noticing too. But the real shift happened when leaked practice footage began making its way around social media. Fans expected shakiness, mistakes, hesitation. What they got was the exact opposite. Sheduer firing lasers across the field, hitting deep throws with timing and touch that looked straight out of a highlight reel, not a midweek practice. Analysts were shocked, fans were divided, and suddenly the conversation wasn't, is Sheduer falling behind? It was, is he actually pulling ahead? The timing on his deep shots was unreal. The footwork was cleaner than anything he'd shown in games. And the confidence? You could feel it through the screen. Receivers looked alive running routes for him, and defenders looked annoyed because no matter how tight the coverage was, the ball kept landing exactly where only his guy could get it. Then came the throw. The one former players dissected for hours online, the one that made even the coaches on the sideline react like something special had just happened. Pressure crashed in off the edge. Most young quarterbacks panic, rush the throw, or take the hit. Not Sheduer. He slid, reset, kept his eyes downfield, and launched a perfect deep ball along the sideline that hit his receiver in full stride. Not behind him, not too far ahead, perfect. It wasn't flashy luck, it was calculated, smooth, and intentional. And when that ball dropped into the receiver's hands, the entire field felt the shift. Guys on defense looked frustrated. Guys on offense erupted. Coaches exchanged looks like they had just witnessed a turning point. But that throw wasn't even the craziest moment of the day. Because right after that, Sheduer pulled off a play that showcased something even more important than accuracy: awareness. With defenders closing in, he flashed a subtle fake with his hands, a small misdirection that froze the rush for half a second. It didn't look like much, but that half second was everything. It gave him just enough time to reposition, open his shoulders, and spot a receiver the defense had completely forgotten about. That wasn't just athleticism. That was IQ. That was film study. That was instincts you can't teach. And veterans on the field noticed instantly. They saw a young quarterback playing chess, while the defense was still playing checkers. But the moment everyone kept talking about, the moment that sparked the internal buzz around the facility, came when the pocket collapsed so violently that everyone assumed the rep was dead. Defenders crashed from every angle. The pocket folded like wet cardboard, and yet Sheduer didn't panic. He didn't turtle. He didn't throw desperation junk. Instead, he slid left, not scrambling wildly but calmly repositioning to clear his sightline. It was subtle, controlled, and more importantly, it was the exact move veteran quarterbacks use to survive chaos. Coaches reportedly said it was the first time they'd seen him look like a true NFL field general. And just when everyone thought he'd throw the ball away, he fired a dart to the only safe window on the field. Not a risky heave, not a hopeful prayer, a calculated strike. And that moment changed the entire vibe on the field. The conversation was no longer whether he could handle pressure, he had just shown he thrives in it. But none of that compared to what happened next, because the final rep of the day was the one that shut everybody up and forced his critics to rethink everything they'd been saying. The defense dialed up a heavy pressure look, sending heat from angles designed to confuse even veteran quarterbacks. It was one of those reps coaches use to test a player's composure, decision-making, and instincts all at once. A rep meant to break you. And for a split second, it looked like they had him. The pocket was collapsing violently from every side, defenders swarming like sharks sensing blood. Any mistake, any hesitation, would lead to a turnover, maybe even a pick six. But Sheduer didn't blink. His eyes stayed locked downfield, scanning, assessing, calculating in real time. His receiver had a small opening, but it was the kind of opening where the window slams shut instantly if the ball isn't perfect. 1 inch too high, it's tipped. 1 inch too low, it's broken up. 1 inch too far inside, it's intercepted. But Sheduer took the risk. Not carelessly, intelligently. He adjusted his arm angle, shifted his weight, and delivered the pass with insane touch, threading it through a window barely wider than a shoebox. The entire field went silent. Teammates stared. Coaches froze. Defenders turned around like they couldn't believe what just happened. And then the sideline erupted. Because that throw wasn't just good. It was NFL good. It was face of the franchise good. It was the kind of throw that makes teams rethink depth charts and reconsider timelines. It was the kind of moment where you could almost feel the narrative shifting, where doubt turned into belief. That single rep told them everything they needed to know. But the real story wasn't just the throw, it was everything behind it. The footwork under pressure, the mental calm, the situational awareness, the decision-making. The intelligence to take the risk but avoid the reckless mistake. And above all, the composure of a player who didn't look shaken by competition, criticism, or expectations. He looked ready. He looked hungry. He looked dangerous. Even veterans reportedly nodded in respect, something they don't hand out easily. Word around the facility was that this was the day Sheduer stopped looking like a young quarterback trying to learn the system and started looking like the quarterback who could eventually run it. Now the QB room suddenly feels a little tighter. The competition feels a little more real. And some players, well, let's just say not everyone likes how fast the spotlight is shifting in his direction. Coaches won't admit it publicly, but insiders have whispered that this week's practice was the turning point, the moment he began to separate himself from the pack. And fans? They're split, arguing online about whether the team should roll with him now or ease him in. But one thing is clear. The questions surrounding Sheduer Sanders aren't about whether he's talented enough. They're about whether the Browns are ready for how quickly he's growing into the role. Because if this is how he performs in a practice full of collapsing pockets, disguised coverages, and high-pressure reps designed to break him, then what happens when the lights come on and the real games begin? What happens when the playbook opens up? What happens when he has the full trust of the offense? And maybe the biggest question of all, what happens if he keeps getting better this fast? The Browns might not just have a promising young quarterback, they might have their future, and it might be arriving sooner than anyone expected. Now the only thing left is seeing whether he can translate this new level of confidence, precision, and composure into game day dominance. If he does, the entire NFL is about to find out that the rookie they doubted is the same quarterback who quietly turned into a problem for every defense he faces. So what do you think? Is this the moment everything changes for Sheduer Sanders? Is Cleveland witnessing the rise of its next franchise leader? And if this is what he looks like before he takes over, what's he going to look like once he owns the field completely?